Welcome to Freezer Milk Podcast. I'm your host, Bridget, along with my husband, Chris. Podcast where we talk about the comedic side and serious side of parenting, life, and relationships. We are boy parents. We have two boys, Enzo and Rhett, with about a 6-year age gap between the two. You can check out our website, freezermilk.com. Also, feel free to follow us on Instagram at Freezer Milk Podcast. Thanks and hope you enjoy. The one where we all got COVID. Welcome back. So, we've had a super fun week, to say the least.
Very exciting.
We all got COVID.
Yep.
Party at our house. You can still hear it in my voice. It's awesome. Luckily, Enzo probably has had the least amount of symptoms, which is good because I think Enzo is what we were mostly worried about.
On the baby.
And the baby, but baby gets antibodies from nursing, luckily. But I would say Enzo is what we were most worried about, and luckily he hasn't shown anything at all.
You got it the worst, definitely.
Yeah.
You've been down and out.
Mom was down for the count.
It's been five days of hell.
It's tough, too. Like, you had to pull pretty much solo parent and take care of me for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Whole new appreciation for when you travel.
Yeah, but you're not only sick.
I know, but like when you travel and I have the kids solo.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's not easy.
Mm-mm. Now you got a hell of an adventure at the hospital.
Yeah. It's been fun. It's been a fun week. It started with, so I spiked some really high fevers like a week ago. And those are typically not associated with COVID. High fevers. And the hottest I got was like 103.4.
Yeah, you were up there.
It was hot. It was very hot.
And you run cooler naturally.
I run about 1.5 degrees colder than like the normal. So it was
really high.
It was very high. I was a little concerned about it at that point.
Yeah, that's why we took you in.
Got the sore throat. That was really bad. Ugh. I don't wish that on anybody.
That happened the night at the hospital, though.
Yeah, it started before we got to the hospital, and then we went to the ER just to make sure everything was okay with me because of fever being so high. I just wanted to make sure everything was okay, which it was, luckily, just COVID. But the sore throat was like I had them check me for strep, and they agreed to check for strep because my throat looked terrible. It was like swallowing like glass. Just every time you swallowed, it felt like you were like swallowing glass. It was making your my eyes got all watery every time.
Yeah, I remember.
I was like, this is just terrible. I couldn't talk. Remember, I had no voice for like 2 days?
I know, it was quiet.
It was so unusual for you, probably.
I'd ask you questions and I wouldn't hear a response, but I wouldn't look at you when I asked you the questions and I'm expecting a response and I don't hear anything. I'd look over at you all angry. Where's my response? And you can't even freaking talk.
You'd see me mouth the word. Just know, I think my vocal cords were just swollen because my throat was so mad. Because it wasn't like I lost my voice, it was raspy, went away. It was I couldn't get my vocal cords to vibrate by pushing air past them.
Yeah, you need to tell them a little bit about what happened when you just decided to tell Enzo's dad about the fact that you had tested positive for COVID. So
Enzo's dad has moved his parents in with him to help offset bills. And his parents are very nice people. We've talked about them. We like them. But Enzo's granddad, on his dad's side, is been very sick. I think he's almost 80, So he's been very sick the last couple years and, fought some weird infections and, known a lot of people that have died of COVID because of his age. Just plain and simple. The age range he's at, it's bound to happen. So when I tested positive for COVID, I had to reach out because of Enzo was at his dad's at the time and he'd been with us. So there was a chance Enzo had been exposed. So I reached out to Enzo's dad and told him, hey, tested positive. And he was like, okay, now we have to get Enzo tested. I'm like, I totally agree. He quarantined Enzo in his room and only let him out to go to the bathroom the entire time. Oh, and he let him out to go get the test.
Yep.
So my 7-year-old is sequestered alone in his room.
Scared.
scared because he knows he has respiratory and he knows how much we've said, like, hey, COVID is very scary, and especially for somebody like you, Enzo, with your respiratory, it could be very scary. So talk about like a mama bear coming out. It made me so mad to hear that he like sequestered him in his room and basically just left him alone all day and didn't want to be anywhere near him. And then he got the results from Enzo's test, and Enzo tested positive for COVID as well. And he texts me at 3:45 in the morning to tell me he got the results and that he's going to drop Enzo off at our house at 6:30 in the morning because we were COVID positive. So therefore Enzo needed to be with us, which I agree with. Like, that's fine. I understand that. I don't understand why he felt the need to text me at 3:30 in the morning to tell me this. I don't understand why he had to so emergently at 6:30 drop him off. He couldn't wait, didn't care that we were day 4 of me being like sick as hell, like so sick and like barely functioning, and you taking care of me and taking care of the baby and trying to get work done, and like you were just stretched so thin. No consideration was given to any of that. None of like his dad being like, hey, I'm gonna isolate with Enzo and like we're gonna get through this and see if he gets symptom. Nothing. Just, hey, your problem now. You have COVID, he has COVID. He's not showing any symptoms. I don't care. Drop him off at your house. You handle it. And then you said what? Like when they got here, like his dad had on gloves and a mask, like treating his kid like a freaking leper.
Yeah, like a science experiment. And he got here, and I opened up the door, and Enzo walks in with his mask on. I said, Enzo, you can take off that mask. We all got COVID here. And his dad's like, well, thanks for holding down the fort.
I think what else did you do to Enzo, though? What did you...
Oh, I gave him a hug.
And immediately asked him, like, how he was feeling.
Yeah,
and how he was breathing. But I think that just the simple act of you giving him a hug was, like, it was more than I ever could have asked for. Because I'm sure...
He felt so alone.
Yes, I was going to say, I'm sure, like, in that moment and in that, like, last 24 hours...
That was his dad's time that he was supposed to be with him. And his dad was like, nope, we're shuffling you over to your mom's. You're sick. Put up the cross sign. Stay away.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was horseshit.
And it's so frustrating because, like, I think we just have very different stances. Like, yes, I understand his dad is old and, high risk. So go somewhere else.
Yeah, go get a hotel room for 5 days.
You should, like, it came across that Enzo's dad was more concerned about his own father than his own son.
Yeah, his own father that he doesn't even have a good relationship with.
And that was not a good feeling. And that was frustrating because I know that Enzo probably felt that.
Yeah.
That, oh, well, they're all scared of me because I'm sick. So I have to leave now because they're all scared of me. Instead of what most parents are going through in a pandemic is, hey, if my kid gets sick, guess what? Hunker down.
Yeah.
We're all getting it. Because
Yep.
we can't quarantine from your kids, you know? Like, what would his dad do if I wasn't available for that?
I don't know.
Like,
he probably would have relied on me.
It's just bonkers to me.
Yeah, I was thinking, what if you had ended up in the hospital? Mm-hmm. What would his dad done? Met me at the hospital? Here's Enzo.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you would have gotten him back to his dad. I think his dad would have just been like, no, I can't take him, sorry. My own dad might get sick. Well, tell your dad to go stay somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, your son needs you. He's your flesh and blood. What are you doing? Making him feel like he's a freaking outcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was tough. It's been a tough week. I mean, he's here and he's off his routine. He obviously can't go to school. He's very, we tried to invite him in, but again, we're stretched. You're sick. You're in bed, and I'm trying to work and take care of the baby and take care of you, and I can't give him the time of day, and I feel terrible about it. And I'm short with him. I even texted my sister and was like, "Hey, this is kind of bothering me." It's hard.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what so many families are going through.
And that is the hard part too, is, as a parent, like, if your kid gets COVID, or as a parent, like, if you have small children, like,
it's not like we can bring in help.
Yeah, you can't bring in help because COVID. But also, like, if you're a parent with a smaller kid, you can't quarantine away from your kid. So, guess what? Your kids are getting COVID, and it's going to be a fun, it's like a chicken pox, party, except for it's a COVID around your house party.
It's not something I ever really wanted to experience again, though.
No. And that's the crappy part, too, is that people can get it again.
Mm-hmm. We went 2 years.
I know. I
Since
feel
we
like we should
started.
get like a 2-year badge.
I know we went 2 years without ever getting it, and we go to the zoo lights with my mom, and everybody gets COVID.
Yeah.
Life and people and their stances on COVID. We could talk about that forever. Especially what my mom thinks about COVID.
His mom's cure for COVID, because COVID, in her opinion, she doesn't feel like it exists. So she was telling me I just need to drink Jägermeister.
Yeah, she was over there doing shots of Jaeger at home and said it helped her throat because it's a liqueur.
So she was like, Bridget, I healed myself with Jägermeister. You should just drink Jägermeister.
And I was like, she's like, I'll bring some over if you want. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to bring it over because it's like $18 a bottle. I don't want to bring it over if you guys aren't going to drink it because I'll drink it. And I'm like, okay, here we are.
Do you remember when we were younger, we used to do Jaeger? Doesn't it taste like NyQuil?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe that's all it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a lot. This has been a very emotional week, very stressful week. I mean, we've been through a lot here.
I feel like it's hard too because as one part of our like relationship, I struggle not only with like, hey, I don't feel good, but I struggle with, hey, I feel guilty that I don't feel good, and I feel guilty that you have to carry the weight of everything.
All I can say is at least all our bills are on auto pay.
But I do like it, and you've caught me, like, I've cried more than once this week about the fact that I feel really bad that I'm not any help, and I'm more of a burden right now because I'm sick too. You know, I'm finally feeling like I'm over the worst of it, and I'm hopefully on, like, the recovery side of it today. But that's new as of today.
Yeah.
And I just feel so guilty about the fact that I know that it's exhausting for you, and I see the exhaustion, and
Well, and I think the baby senses it too. Mm-hmm. Senses the change in you and the atmosphere and everything that's going on. And fortunately, he hasn't come up with any.
He's been a little.
He's been a little bit lethargic. I mean, a little bit congested and cranky. But other than that, his symptoms have been minimal.
Crazy.
It's been a long week, guys.
I know. I think we're going to keep it short tonight, guys. Just wanted to pop on and say hello. Thanks for being our listeners. We appreciate you. And we survived COVID.
With anybody else that's going through it, we understand where you're coming from. And hopefully you all stay safe and healthy. And we're all in it together.
We're all in it together. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You can check us out at
freezermilk.com
or Instagram.
Freezer Milk Podcast.
Until next week, guys. Thanks.
Don't forget, parenting is a trip. We are all here on the journey with you together. Thanks so much for listening.